Good evening, everybody. As always, Thursday nights, brand new content drops. Well, tonight, we're taking the ultimate walk down heavy metal memory lane. You remember this summer, we've been celebrating the Metallica Kill 'Em All release, 40 years. That album recorded right here in the Rock, Rochester, New York. Well, tonight, we're getting the whole gang back together. We have Andrew Robleski, second chair engineer. We have Rob the Warhead Thomas, Metallica's personal chauffeur, guy that brought him around the food, and best friend for 4 weeks in 1983. We have Metal Walt from New Jersey. I'm the Vernomatic, and we have from Honolulu, Hawaii, Kirk Hammett himself. Kirk, welcome, and welcome to Metal Mayhem ROC.
Hello, everyone. It's really an honor to be here today, Mr. Vernomatic.
Well, you know what? It's been 40 years. Quickly, I want to introduce you to my metal brother. He helps me run this Metal Mayhem ship, Metal Walt, New Jersey.
Hey, Metal Walt.
Kirk, it's a pleasure. As you can see, I've been stuck in MetLife Stadium since August 6th, 2.5 months, and I can't find my way home.
Yeah, I can see. I can see our towers right in the background.
Well, Kirk, it's a pleasure. I'm going to be doing some virtual photo booking. I've taken out the photo books from 40 years ago, and it's going to be done virtual style, and I'll see you back towards the end of the show.
Great.
All right. Well, you know what? Like I said, we have tons of guests here tonight. They brought all their pictures from their own personal catalog, and we're going to get going right away. But first, you know what? Kirk and I had a run-in 1986 when I had a chance to interview him for the first time when they came here opening for Ozzy. It was, we did an interview in the lobby of the Rochester Plaza, me and my co-host of the early version of Metal Mayhem, Cheech Carbone, and we did an interview with Kirk and Lars. Kirk, I'm sure you don't remember this, but I do have one photo from that. Well, can you bring up this picture? There we go. So there's a young Vernomatic with all my hair with those nice 1986 tinted goggles. And, you know, if you're looking at this, you know, Kirk's not 6'4". I think he was goofing and sitting on a standing on the chair or something in the lobby. But we were able to take this picture. We did the interview. And at the time, you know, I was an 18-year-old broadcast student. Kirk was 20, 21 maybe. And we did the interview, Kirk. And you asked me, listen, do you have a car? I go, yeah, I got a car. We got in my car, me and my partner, Cheech Carbone, and we drove to Nicky's News, right next door to the House of Guitars. Now, Nicky's News was a comic book store, and I'm not sure if you made friends with the owner when you were here for the recording of Kill 'Em All, but you went in there and you were in all your glory. You were talking shop with the owner, and I think at the time he was actually maybe mail ordering you product. But you had a great time. We went over to the House of Guitars, and Cliff and James were doing a little walking around, you know, shooting shit. We stayed there a while. Then we brought you back to the Rochester War Memorial, dropped you off at the backstage door. We slapped each other up, and here we are 40 years later meeting up again. And I will tell you one thing, Kirk, I have not missed a tour. I've seen you guys all along the line. So that's my first brush with Metallica.
You know, it's weird. I have a very, very vague memory of that. Very, very vague, but I do have a memory of that.
So let's get this going. Our first guest, Andrew Robleski. At the time, he was a 21-year-old sound engineer student from Eastman School of Music. He had to get an internship, they told him. So he walked across the street, walked into Music America Studios, where the band recorded Kill 'Em All. They hired him on the spot. And his first project was to work on this band from California called Metallica or something, the guy said to him. And turned out to be Metallica, and the project ended up being Kill 'Em All. Let's get Andrew Robleski in on here. Andrew.
There. How you guys doing?
Hey, Andrew. It's been ages. Wow.
Long time no see. A couple of years have gone by, but all been good, my man.
Wow. Do you remember that time we went to that one nightclub and we all got really, really drunk, and I ended up fighting the whole band that was playing that night? Do you remember that?
I kind of do. I might have had a couple of adult beverages though to impair my memory. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was me against with a cover band, basically.
There was also a night where when Johnny Z and Marcia had come up from Jersey, and Johnny Z gave me $50 because I told him that there was a bar outside of Rochester that had 25-cent beers. So he gave me $50 and he said, "Why don't you guys go have some fun?"
I remember that. I remember that too. Was it like Rolling Rock or something? It was like 25 cents a beer or something crazy like that. Where we just for us, it's like the best thing in the world.
Yeah, it was like, Johnny was awesome. He was like, "Here, go. Here's $50." I was like, "All right." It was a good time, really good time. So, it's so great to see you again. And then, so I brought along some pictures that I had taken during the recording of Kill 'Em All that I know you haven't seen. I gave them all to Mark, manager Mark. Mm-hmm. And they're also, I donated the originals to the Hall of Fame in Cleveland.
Wow, that's
a couple of years ago. Nobody had seen them before then. I had kept them at home to myself. It was like my little thing. But this first picture, I think you get a big kick out of. This was taken. This was taken right before we recorded Anesthesia Pulling Teeth when I said, "Bass solo, take one." You guys, Cliff, you did that in one take. And if I remember right, partially through that song, I think James took Lars and shoved him into the studio and said, "Get behind the drums and start playing." Do you remember that?
Yeah. I remember, I think right before that picture was taken, because remember Cliff did the bass solo upstairs. Remember in that room? There's a big empty room upstairs, and he did his two cabinets were up there, and I was just standing there, and he was getting ready to play, and he said to me, "Get the fuck out of my face, man! I don't want you to be in here. I don't want to be distracted." I was just like, "Okay, no problem," and I got the hell out of there. Of course, he also had like a couple beers and he had a joint and he was getting ready. That was how Cliff got ready. A couple beers and a split. Yeah. But I remember right afterwards, I came down into the control room and watched what it was. We couldn't really watch him, but we were listening to him record that. And I think that might have been when that picture was taken.
Yep. You're exactly right. Yep. Now
and interesting note, that t-shirt I got from a Def Leppard concert.
We were just going to ask you, that was like Pyromania
time, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
That was one of the Def Leppard's merchandise things was to sell the Union Jack shirt. And so, of course, we're all Def Leppard fans. Wow, look at that. That's just amazing. I've never seen these pictures before.
Yeah, this is the room that you were just referring to. It was the ballroom above the studio. And I don't remember if it was you and I talking or Lars and I talking, but I had said something. I said, "Hey, you guys, just, what is the greatest hard rock album of all time?" And somebody said Led Zeppelin 1. And I said, exactly. And I said, and I told the story of how Zeppelin recorded that album where they rented this country manor and they set up all their gear at the bottom in the foyer of this big mansion that had these double stairs. And I just set up their stuff and they played and it was raw. And somebody said, "Well, we should do that here." So we didn't even, the studio did not own this property. We went up there, got in the door and set you guys up there. And then that picture of Lars, that's where, if you remember, he was seeing the ghosts.
Yeah.
It was all haunted.
The upstairs or the whole building was supposedly haunted.
Oh yeah, the whole building. And when Lars was in the bathroom, you know, at that time I went by Andy, and he kept saying, "Hey, you guys, why is Andy walking by the room all the time?" And Chris, the other engineer, said, "No, he's sitting here right next to me." And so then after that, I had to go sit with Lars because we put his drums in the bathroom. We took out all the walls and stuff and put them in the bathroom, and I went up there and I used to sit with them and stuff because it was really a spooky place.
I remember you guys put the toms in the bathroom to try to get a bigger sound for the drum fills that hit the lights, but it just didn't happen. I remember it just was not happening.
Try as we might.
Yeah.
So I think there's a couple more pictures coming up here. There it is.
Wow.
You guys goofing around, and you know, Cliff was a lot of fun. You know, he called me Andy Man, and he would come into the studio and he would always say, "Rage on, Andy Man," you know, like he always used to. But we had some fun. You guys were goofing around.
Yeah.
And then, well, let's see those other couple of pictures we've got here of Kirk. There we go. Wow. More t-shirts, right?
Wow, this is amazing. I've not seen these pictures. It's so long.
Yeah, I mean, this is hardly anybody's seen them.
Yeah, and I wish I had that Blizzard of Oz t-shirt, because that Blizzard of Oz t-shirt is collectible now.
Kirk, I was going to ask you, did you buy that Blizzard at a show? And which show?
Probably, yeah, I probably bought it. Because I saw Ozzy. You know, I saw Ozzy's band at least 2 times before Kill 'Em All came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a big Ozzy fan, a big Randy Rhoads fan, obviously, and a big Sex Pistols fan, as you can see from that shirt, the other shirt, God Save the Queen. But you know what's interesting is just looking at my Flying V guitar and seeing how new it still looked back then. I mean, back then it was only 4 years old. That guitar now is like, you know, going on almost 50 years old now. And it's interesting to see how shiny and unscuffed up it is. Really interesting.
You know, unfortunately, because of the tech limitations we're experiencing today, I had this summer, Andrew found in his personal belongings an outtake cassette of you just jamming for about half an hour. You're working on the inner part of Four Horsemen, and there's banter between you and James going back. But the interesting thing was we ran a contest. There was a 1-minute clip we had where you played a mystery tape that ended up being MSG, Armed and Ready. And we ran a contest, and if anyone could figure out the mystery riff, we would send them some Metal Mayhem ROC shirts. And I think Andrew actually donated some guitar picks that Dan Braun donated from the Zazula show last fall, and some goodies. And the guys that won it were from France, and they have a kick-ass Metallica Kill 'Em All podcast. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was great. So we made all these friends with the guys in France, and all surrounding to Kill 'Em All. But that was an interesting riff, and
that's really interesting to me, because I'd love to hear that, and it makes total sense because, you know, Armed and Ready came out in 1980, and that was 1983, so I would have been playing that a lot on my guitar still.
Yeah, you were sitting in the guitar isolation booth, and we just happened to just run a mic in there, and I just started running the tapes and never really knew I had it. And after this last summer, started digging through everything. I found this cassette, and there it was.
Wow.
Like never heard it before. So Mark's got that, and you know, John will get you a copy of that as well. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'd love to get a copy of that.
One quick story, Kirk. You know, going into my car in the alley and listening to the tapes, there was one night where you and I were sitting in there, and we were listening to an old radio program called the King Biscuit Flour Hour.
Yeah.
You remember that?
No. Yeah.
And we were listening to a Priest episode where Priest was talking about them being on tour, and their van had broken down on the English countryside, and they took refuge inside a convent. That's I'm not going to ruin the rest, but we had a good time listening to that, having a couple of beers.
Nice. Yeah. I also remember we would eat a lot of pizza back then. And there was this place right down the street from Gary Zefting's house. Do you remember Gary Zefting?
Yes, you stayed in Gary's house.
He was the session musician at Music America, and poor guy lent us his house to stay in, and we trashed it. Man, we trashed that house. I felt so bad leaving it, because it's like there were 6 of us, right? 4 band members, 2 crew guys, and we're guys. And, we're guys in our early 20s. Guys in their early 20s have bad hygiene, and they just don't clean up after themselves or each other. So after 3 weeks in Gary Zefting's house, it was trashed. And to this day, I'm like, yikes.
Yeah, so you're 21, you're on the other side of the country. You're having the time of your life,
Well, we were just like, when we weren't in the studio or we weren't waking up, we were drinking beer. That's how it was, back then. But yeah, Gary Zefting's house, right down the street or a few blocks away was a place called Pizza Peddler. Do you remember that? And we would get their sheet pan pizzas, and their sheet pan pizzas had, it was like a big, sheet pan, and there would be 20, 30 slices. And that would be, we were in heaven every time we got one of those, because it was enough food for us, and also leading into the next day, wake up, hey, is there any of that pizza left? We lived by Pizza Peddler. I think we even thanked Pizza Peddler on Kill 'Em All.
Well, unfortunately, Pizza Peddler isn't there anymore, but
yeah, I wouldn't expect it to be.
Memory remains, if you will.
Yes. Oh, and then another funny thing is Gary had a bike there, right? And we would take turns pedaling to the Pizza Peddler to get the pizza, which was always interesting, trying to carry a pizza on a bike.
Makes money on pizza. Well, you know what? We're gonna send Andrew over into the green room. You get yourself check out the buffet, Andrew. And we're going to bring in our next guest. Andrew will be back at the end to say goodbye. So
yeah, Andrew, next Metallica show, you got to come by and say hello to everyone.
I definitely will. I'll promise you I will.
Love to give you a big hug, man, for sure.
Yeah, all right. You got it. Thanks, man.
All right. Cheers.
Well, before we bring in our next guest, I got a quick story. Back, I was a couple years younger, and I remember a friend of mine, his father owned a taco restaurant right near the studio. It was called The Broken Shell. And one day he came down to the park, and all of us young, burnout metalheads, he comes down and he's like, listen, I just met some band from California. They're recording some album. And this little guy, the drummer, said, we're going to be huge. Look out for us. And it turned out to be Metallica. And about a week later, we got our hands on the No Life to Leather cassette that finally made it over to the East Coast. And who knew at the time that it was going on right down the street, 5 minutes from where I'm sitting. So that was my little introduction to Metallica. But the real king of the hill is our next guest. He goes by the name The Warhead. He's a Rochester metal DJ legend. And it's Rob Thomas, and he's your old buddy. Fitz, let's bring Rob into the show, please. He's sleeping again. Warhead. Warhead.
Sorry.
Oh my goodness.
I was listening to Taylor Swift. I'm one of the not so Swifties. What's up, bro?
Amazing to see you, Bob. Because that's what we came to call you. You used to call you Bob.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know any better. I was doing too much drinking and eating pizza at the Peddler.
Yeah.
Great to see you.
Okay. Great to see you. Man, we had some great times with our friend here. I just want to say, you were very instrumental in just helping us make it through those 3 weeks. You brought us food, you brought us booze, and you brought us companionship. and laughs and entertainment, which is what we needed because
Oh yeah.
there was 6 of us, right? There's like the 4 of us, Mark Whitaker and maybe Dave Mars or something. I can't remember. And we didn't know anyone in Rochester. We didn't know anyone. We didn't even know anyone in the studio. And you befriended us, you and Jim Ferraro. And it was the greatest thing because you guys were so great to us when we really needed support, because we were like literally like babes in the woods. We were just like left out, to just like fend for ourselves. And like I said earlier, we were just in our early 20s. We can barely fend for ourselves. So, man, I was just so thankful for how much help and how helpful you were back then. And yep, that looks about right. All those pictures.
That's that on the right here. That's at Boardman Street, which was Gary's house.
Yeah.
Not sure what's in the bag, but probably not Kool-Aid. Probably not Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
And then the other one is you and Lars came over to my parents' house. We're looking through my records. I can see Lucifer's Friend record down there on the bottom, Derringer,
Yeah.
So we used to, we obviously had the music thing going, which was awesome.
Yeah. I was really impressed that you had Lucifer's Friend. I remember that. I was just like, this guy knows his music. Definitely.
I started off real early. My sister was 6 years older than me, and her boyfriend was 5 years older than her. He was this hippie guy, and he was into 10 Years After and Free and, all these Captain Beyond and all this stuff. And I was just like, that's where I'm going, the heck with the Partridge Family. So, yeah, I had been into it for quite a while. And when you guys dropped for me, you were my favorite band because Jim had got a hold of No Life Till Leather. And that was it. I remember the guy's house we were at when he dropped that tape, and it was like, that's it. We got the new Kings, So when I heard you guys were in town, I got a call from Ron at Lakeshore. I remember it very well. I was
Ron. He had a record store.
Yeah, Lakeshore Record Exchange.
Yep.
And he calls me up. I was frying up some wings in this little fryer. And he says, hey, Bob, he says, I got Metallica in the store. And I remember saying, it's out? And he says, Bob, I got Metallica. And I took the wings, put them up on their little, the little latch on top. And that was it. I came down, met you guys. And it's just like, every minute I had, I was just, hanging out for the duration.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing. Yeah, I remember Lakeshore, and I remember Ron. That was his name, right? Ron.
Yeah, there he is there on the left here.
yeah. I remember. Bro, do you remember that time we were going down the freeway? We were going like about 60 miles per hour. We were all drunk, all laughing, and then you decided to like open up the driver's side of the door while you were driving. And while you were driving, you just you started climbing out of the car while we were going like literally like 60 miles per hour down the freeway. Seriously, Bob had one hand on the steering wheel, and the other part of him was really like hanging out the door. And of course, we were laughing and loving it, because we were all drunk and dumb, and it's like, oh, great, but probably not the wisest thing to do, but we loved it. And, it showed to us that you were just as good at at pushing the boundaries as we were.
Oh, yeah. We got along
a couple of days after that, I remember in your car, because you drove us everywhere.
Yeah.
And, we were drinking, we were drunk in your car, and you were driving crazy. You're driving like crazy. We're all inside laughing. And then we remember police siren? Ooh, and we're like,
I was wondering that. I remember that one. Wow, that was crazy.
That was brilliant because you instantly pulled over, got out of the car, ran up to the cop and said, officer, something's wrong with my steering wheel. And that's why I was doing this. And we were like watching in shock because he totally bought the whole story. And we were in disbelief because you totally just like pulled it off, and like basically saved all of us from being arrested for being drunk in public, basically.
And I remember that, I swerved at this vehicle not knowing what it was.
That's right. There was a cop. You swerved at the cop.
Yeah.
I
swerved right at him in his lane. Then he hits the lights, and I saw what was going on. I remember this very well. We were drinking Moosehead beer.
Yeah.
And we had a 6-pack, and I'm like, the car was nothing but hair. Right? I'm like, oh no, this is not good. Take the beer. Whoever was sitting in the passenger side back, they put the beer back there, and I got out of the car, and I was looking at the front end of the car by the time he pulled up. So, and I'm looking underneath like the wheel, and then I went up to him, officer, I'm so sorry, I don't know what. And I remember he asked me where I lived, he asked me where I worked, and just, okay, take care of it. I could not believe that it was just, I thought we were doomed.
Oh, I'll never forget that, because you, like I said, you saved all of us from being or getting arrested for being drunk. Drunk and disorderly.
Yeah, no doubt. Do you remember the time where you were probably there, we were in the Pizza Peddler, and we were chowing on whatever pizza wings. And do you remember when Cliff came in with the idea for Kill 'Em All? I remember I was sitting there. I'm not sure if you were there. Cliff came in.
No, I do remember. I do remember because we were pissed off because of some we couldn't call the album Metal Up Your Ass because Johnny Z was concerned that places like Kmart wouldn't want to carry it. And Cliff was so pissed off about that. He was pissed. And you take it from here, bro. This is.
Well, I remember he came in, we were sitting in a booth, and he came in and he had the Levi jacket on, the bell bottoms. I don't know where he was, but he wasn't eating with us, but he was brainstorming it. I remember it just clicked for all you guys. You're like, that's it. That's it. He talked about the mallet and the blood all over. I was hoping maybe I could throw out an idea, but mine were lame, and I'm sure you guys wanted to keep it, within you guys. But I remember being there, and it was like, that's it. Everyone was like, that's it. Let's do it. Let's talk.
Yeah, I remember the dialogue because we were just really just like angry and frustrated that we couldn't call the album Metal Up Your Ass, and that certain retailers would not carry the album if it was titled that, and in total anger and frustration, Cliff said, "Yeah, just kill them all." Just kill them all. That's where it stopped. That's just like, we're like, okay, that's it. Yep, that looks about right.
Yeah, there you go. Lars is sporting the 40 ounces there, whatever, the malt bull, the Schlitz malt bull.
Yeah, we used to drink that because it was cheap.
Yeah.
Content.
I remember a frequent refrain was, the well is dry. Johnny Z would be, the well is dry, so I was working as a punch press operator, making $5 an hour, and I'd go to this place called Apples that was around where they'd have corn flakes, black and white, and get corn flakes and, just get some vodka, some ground beef, some taco mix, and we'd just hang out, listening to, I don't know how well this would show, but listening to this little gem, which is written by a guy, handwriting you'd probably recognize. I think his name is Lars. And we got the Armored Saint demo, Venom, Bursting Out, Jaguar, Dirty Tricks. This was the actual tape. We'd jam this and other things, cruising around in the car. I remember, I wasn't sure your reaction, but I remember back in those days, you were really interested to hear Peace of Mind.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that was one you were really looking forward to. We were jamming Dio. I remember going up to a store called Wegmans, and James and I were listening to Don't Talk to Strangers and just trashing shopping carts, while we're listening to that. Of course, what else would you do there?
I remember when we finally got a copy of Peace of Mind, and for like a week, that's all we listened to at Gary's house. Remember?
Yeah.
All we listened to was Peace of Mind. You know, Iron Maiden's album Peace of Mind, for all you people out there who don't know what the heck we're talking about. Do you remember that time we're all down in the kitchen and Cliff was smoking a joint, and you know, he passed it around to everyone. We all took a little bit, including James, and then James passed out on the kitchen floor, and we couldn't get him to move into the bedroom. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I have that documented. Because I've got this tub here of pictures that I was snapping pictures like. So I have like a 3-parter of James that I call it was then. It was going, gone, where he's on the rug. We piled chairs on top of him.
Yeah, exactly. We piled chairs on top of him, and then later on, remember, he woke up the next day and he had like this mark on his face. I said, "What happened, man?" He goes, "Oh, I was using one of the armchairs as a pillow." I was like, "What?"
Yeah, that was if somebody dared to bite the dust there, that was the treatment. They got the chairs. That was like what we did. You know? And I remember one time with Lars, I've got pictures of that too. He passed out there, piled the chairs, and he was just in oblivion. And then I remember taking a slice of tomato from a pizza peddler sub and putting it on his ear. And that revived him just enough to flash those red eyes and flip the bird, and then back he went. Not sure what happened to the slice.
Yeah, but that was a thing we used to do a lot back then. Whenever someone passed out, we piled chairs on top of them, because you know they wake up and then try to sit up. And they sit up into a pile of chairs. The funniest thing. Oh my God, we would just wait for that person to wake up, and it was always hilarious. Okay, so Bob asked Andrew, do you remember that time we went to the Riverboat and I fought the cover band? I personally kind of
I think that was the Playpen. That was Art Stock's Playpen North. Yeah. And it started off, you were criticizing something about it. Was it, you were messing with the board a little bit? You were,
I drank Ouzo that night, and literally I've not drank Ouzo since then. I stay away from Ouzo, the Greek liqueur. The Ouzo made me crazy that night. Just like
made you crazy. Yeah, that's what I claim too. It's
all I could remember was scuffling with like 2 or 3 people at once, and it was just me, and I remember getting thrown out of the club and making it to someone's car. Maybe it was your car, and then
probably.
And then I remember Cliff making it to the car, and we were talking, and then I opened up the car on the passenger side and started puking. And then he opened up the car on the driver's side, started puking. We were puking in stereo that night.
Yeah. That was that night. Yeah, that was, I can't remember if it was like the Little Trolls, this band that used to play out, but it was definitely, there was a decent amount of people there. And, that was I was the driver there. We got out, I had to wait for you guys to finish up. Yeah. Didn't want that in my car, but yeah, that was a wild night. Yeah. You forgot to mention fearless as well as crazy, because you were ready to take on the whole bar. I mean, you were ready, bro.
Yeah. It's a good thing I don't drink anymore, because yeah. But
yeah, we used to go there to the Art Stocks Playpen. I remember being there one time with, I think you guys had taken off, and I had Lars and James with me. And I just remember there's this blonde sitting at the bar, and I just went up, just for a matter of fact, I was like, this is my favorite band. I'm hanging out with Metallica, So I said, these guys are in a metal band from California, and they're going to be huge someday. And I forget what she said, but she gave me the look of like, yeah, okay, my father's the Pope. Beat it. You know what I mean? And I often thought she never even knew, right, that she met you guys, that she was just sitting there and you guys would, you guys are fairly popular. I think you probably reached 100,000 albums sold career-wise. Probably hit 100,000 so far.
Yeah. So, close.
Yeah, just roughly. I'm not good with numbers, not those kind anyway. But it was cool. That, and do you remember Putt Putt golf and games, the arcade we go to?
Yes, I do. Putt Putt. I do remember that.
Yeah. I remember Lars was a big Burger Time fan. He loved the game Burger Time. You walk around and get the lettuce and the pickles all in order.
Yeah. Satan's Hollow was another favorite with all of us.
See, that's the one I couldn't remember. If I'm thinking, I remembered it was like on a corner, and I remember you guys loved that game, and I couldn't remember. I knew it was Satan's. I couldn't remember. It's Satan's Hollow. You just nailed it.
Yeah, whenever we would find that video game, we would just flock to it and start pumping quarters and playing. We would get so competitive over it. And I think while we're recording Injustice for All, there was a Satan's Hollow machine in the studio, and we spent a lot of time around that machine.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that! Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. There's Bill Pierce, my very first guitar tech, even before John Marshall.
That is Lake Avenue in Rochester, and you were crossing it, walking into the Lakeshore Record Exchange.
Yep, and there's your car right there. That was your car. Is that your car right there?
No, that's not my car there. I'm not sure whose. I had the Cougar, the blue and gold. The inside was all navy blue and gold. Okay. The trunk was gold, all that kind of stuff. But it looks about my speed though.
Yeah, and that must be the Kill 'Em All Winnebago, the Winnebago that we did the Kill 'Em All tour in, which had us and Raven and both our crews in that Winnebago. This is like 12 that Winnebago from the East Coast to the West Coast, and man, at the end, it was just like not happening.
Is anybody up top there?
That would be Cliff and me. We'd always try to get that top spot.
Nice.
Yeah, but it was just crazy, and yeah, but pretty amazing, to see these pictures, and that Winnebago died somewhere in between LA and San Francisco.
Well, you mentioned these pictures. Rob has, tons and tons. This is a perfect segue to get the rest of the guys together and do a part 2, because this guy will talk all day. And you know what? It's fabulous. I've been, as a young metalhead, I listened to Rob doing the Metallic Overdrive radio show, inspired me to get into broadcasting. And here we are 40 years later, and we're very, very proud of the rich Rochester metal connection. And the Metallica Kill 'Em All, we hang our head on that, and rightfully so. We kick ass. We kick here in the rock. But I'm gonna move forward a little bit. We got to wrap things up a little bit, but we're gonna have you stay on afterwards, and Rob and Kirk, you could exchange numbers and everything and reconnect. But Rob, thank you.
My pleasure. It's great to be able to pull it off. Get out of work a little early, whatever. I work a lot, so I wouldn't miss it. So it's been great, Kirk. Love you guys. The time we had was just unreal. I felt like it was just like 5-6 brothers. You know what I mean? We just kind of tried to do everything together. Never had any strife, conflict. It was like, we're doing this, we're doing here, we're doing that. Everybody's thumbs up, and it was a time for the ages for me, no doubt.
It was very much a cool time, and it was a window of time where everyone was doing exactly what they were meant to do.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Rob, I have to mention Jim Ferraro.
Yes.
Because, you know, he was part of this group, not as much, but Kirk, do you have what can you share about your relationship with Jim Ferraro? Because he did make the credits on the back of the album.
Yeah, you know, the funny thing about Jim Ferraro that we used to always comment on was his hair. Yeah, perfect hair. And I remember you said one time saying, "Hey, you got the blueprint for your hair," and we just thought that was like the funniest thing. We kept on repeating that. Hey, you got the blueprint for your hair. But Jim was great too. Again, Jim, he was just like Bob, super supportive. You know, helped us in the booze and food department. You know, and just offered great companionship, you know, when we really needed it. We needed people to hang out with. You know, it was really, really a weird sort of time for us because for James, Cliff, and I, we hadn't done that much traveling at all. Of course, Lars, you know, he traveled all over the place. So we were just like, we were so out of our element being in Rochester. And, you know, when Bob and Jim showed up, you know, to kindred spirits, we just like, it took to you guys like brothers, you know.
No doubt.
Definitely, it was a good time. And Bob, you got to come by to some of the shows and come backstage to say hello. We'd love to see you.
Yeah, no doubt.
James
No
Larson,
doubt.
I would love to see you.
You were the last person that I saw. It was a long time ago. You know, I did the family thing, working all the time, kids, wife, etc., and single supporter of a house, family, and stuff. So I stuck with metal, but traveling was a lot more difficult back then. But I remember it was Guns N' Roses and you guys at Rich Stadium, and we were at like the Hyatt, and my sister and brother-in-law at the time came along. We had seen Lars backstage for the Four Horsemen. They were playing a Def Jam group, right, that he knew. And so we were backstage, and he told me about this big stadium tour coming up, Guns N' Roses and you, right? So we ended up going, just, you know, like always, we're going to have the passes, the tickets. We're just going to hang out, right? You know, and I saw you in the hall of the hotel, and it was just like, hey, how's it going? You know, catch you later. We'll see you later. And so we go to the ticket booth, and there's nothing there. It got there was no passes, no tickets. I'm like, you sure? Whatever. And so I'm looking around because I knew all your, I don't know. You remember Mom, of course, the woman you called Mom, right? And there was some of the roadies that I couldn't tell you their names, but they knew me, right? So I'm like looking around, I'm going around the stadium. If I could just see one of these guys we're in. And then I think it was like Creeping Death started playing. And it was like, that's it. It's over. So it was just it was an oversight. It was just like, but you're the last person that I saw there. And it was like, all right, man, we'll catch you later. We were outside. And we ended up going out and grabbing some good food. But so I'd love to do that again, man. It'd be awesome. What a trip.
Yeah. We need, obviously we need to make it up to you. And so,
well, that's not what it's about. It was just crazy because my sister was kind of ticked off. But I mean, it's like I'd seen you guys, and looking forward to seeing you again. But no, I mean, that was the last time that I saw any of you, and it was you in that hallway. So yeah, I'd love to do it again.
Yeah,
I'm more free now, and it's cool that you remember the good old days. And
it's amazing that I do. I mean, it really is amazing what I remember. Because like my short-term memory, I can't remember what I did yesterday. But but clearly I remember all this stuff that happened 40, 41, 42 years ago. I mean, it was great.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, it was awesome, brother. Awesome.
Yeah. It was good times, man.
Thanks, Robin. Remember, stay on, and you guys can connect when we sign off.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right.
Hey, Kirk. Kirk, it's time to get a little Jersey. So I'm a little younger than these guys. So I was a young 12, 13-year-old during this period. But I cut my teeth to Metallica in 1988, June of 1988, the day after I graduated high school. I was at the Monsters of Rock show in East Rutherford, New Jersey. That was the first time seeing Metallica. It was the day after the second night. Now, funny full circle story, during the MetLife shows a couple of months back, I went to see James's son's band, Bastardane, and they played in my hometown of Kearney, New Jersey. And I was talking to Castor, and I took him outside, and I pointed down the street, and I showed him where the high school was, and I said, "This, buddy, is where I got started with your dad's band 40 something years ago." But listen, Kirk, you talked about Art Stock's Playpen North. I mean, obviously, Jersey has a big history with Metallica, with the Zazula family. John and I, through the gracious courtesy of Justin, were invited to the Friends and Family celebration at MetLife, and we got to talk to lots of the old guys. We got to see Ray Dill, Randy Patterson, Ricky Zazula, and there's just a part of us that holds that history there. But what I really wanted to get at was some of the Jersey stuff you brought up. At one of the shows, you were doing the bass solo, the little guitar bass solo, your doodle with Rob. And you mentioned that you actually surfed in Long Branch, New Jersey. Now, my family is a beach house in Point Pleasant, New Jersey, which is about 10 miles down the road. So share a little bit about surfing in Jersey.
Well, I mean, Jersey is known for its waves when it gets a pulse. And not that long ago, maybe last spring, my friend is a pro surfer, sent me a picture, and it was Ocean Beach. No, is there an Ocean Beach? There is an Ocean.
Yes, there is. That's right. Not far away from that spot.
The waves were amazing, bro. And I showed Rob, and Rob said, "Let's go right now." And I said, "We can't. We were like in the middle of the country or something." But Jersey has amazing surf all over the place, bro. Amazing surf all over the place, And so it's just one of those spots. You think about New Jersey, you don't think about surfing. You think about other things,
right?
Yeah. You think about the boardwalk or whatever, You don't really necessarily think about Jersey, but there's serious waves in Jersey, serious waves in the wintertime.
Yeah.
And so, because it's in the wintertime, it's a little challenging because the water's cold as cold as y'all know. Yeah. And you need a wetsuit. But man, it is rocking, bro. Rocking. Serious.
So Kirk, one thing you and I have in common is one of my top 5 bands is Deep Purple. And I've been waiting for a chance to say something to the Metallica guys about Deep Purple, because I know you and Lars are into it. Obviously, at in Screaming Suicide, you do the Speed King solo in the middle. And even at MetLife, when you guys introduced You Must Burn, you did the burn doodle, and James kind of said, no, not that burn, not that burn. But just curious, you guys ever screw around in sound checks doing a Deep Purple set, maybe pull out Tommy Bolin version, Getting Tighter, something like that?
Well, Lars and I, we love Deep Purple. I've always loved Deep Purple. Richie Blackmore is one of my favorite guitar players. Richie Blackmore is Lars's absolutely favorite guitar player of all time. And Purple, they're when I was 15 years old and I heard Highway Star, I was just like, oh my God, this is mind blowing. Just hearing that really spoke to me, obviously. and so between Lars and I, we know a lot of Purple material. And yes, occasionally we jam on Purple stuff here and there. It's Purple. Deep Purple is really hard to cover. I mean, it's actually easier to cover like Rainbow than it is to cover Deep Purple. I mean, the guitar parts are always kind of difficult, but Ian Pace's drum parts, crazy. And then you have the whole contention of John Lord's keyboards, Keyboards were such a heavy part of Deep Purple. I mean, if you cover Deep Purple, you got to have the keyboards. We don't have a keyboard player. And so it's always been a problem. But for a song like Soldier of Fortune, which is keyboard light, and with that we have covered, it was a great thing. And like, for me, playing that, covering that song and playing that song was a huge deal, and I was so into it, I wanted it to be so much not like Purple's version, just so that we can just show people that Purple's version is amazing, and this is what we're gonna do with it. But yeah, I love that album. I love Burn. I love In Rock. I love Fireball. It's just like I love all that stuff.
Next time you come down to MetLife, I'm going to invite myself to Soundcheck, and I'm going to sing "Getting Tighter" with you guys.
Yeah, bro, we'll do it. Tommy Bolin, man, all about it. I love Tommy Bolin's album Teaser. Do you know that album?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I love his playing with Billy Cobham on Spectrum.
Oh, that song is fucking awesome.
Oh, I was just listening to it yesterday. I love it so much. If there's ever a song that I'd want to cover personally, it's Spectrum, because it's just an amazing song.
That is a great song.
Yeah.
John, you had a point.
Yeah, well, first, Kirk, on the ride home from the show, he's like, they played Burn. It was, we were right there, and it was awesome. But about a month ago, we did an exclusive interview with Brittany Chapman, the daughter of the late, great Paul Chapman. And she shared a story of when you met Paul down in Florida. I forget when this may have been Magnetic Tour or something. And she told the story, and it was really cool that you were so excited to meet Paul. You're like, oh my God, I love you so, you're great. And he introduced Brittany to you, and you extend your hands like, your dad is the best. And there's she, like, shaking your hand saying you're the best, and you're like, no, your dad's the best, I'm me, but your dad. Share a little bit about Paul Chapman, because this episode, the outpour after his passing from the rock community, what can you share to Brittany about her dad, Paul Chapman?
Well, I mean, I had never seen UFO with Michael Schenker. I'd never seen it. The very first time I'd seen UFO, who's my favorite band of all time, it was with Paul Chapman, and so I showed up a little skeptical to that gig, but then I saw Paul play on stage, and it blew me away. And then I just realized that it wasn't fair to compare Paul Chapman to Michael Schenker, because they're two different players, completely different players. And, I was so into Paul Chapman's thing, and I was just so into it, to just everything that he did with UFO. But I had never gotten a chance to meet him. I'd met everyone else in UFO, Michael, and all the other guys. But for some reason, I never got a chance to meet Paul Chapman until that time we were in Florida. And I was so excited, because I felt like I was finally closing that circle of meeting, everyone who was instrumental in shaping, UFO's sound and albums. And so, yeah, when I met him, I was just so stoked, because like I can play a lot of his stuff. I play a lot of Paul Chapman's guitar licks. It's not just Michael Schenker licks that I'm playing, I play a lot of Paul Chapman licks too. And I guess this is probably the very first time I've ever copped to this. But yeah, I mean, especially on Kill 'Em All, now that I think about it, there's like Paul Chapman licks all throughout Kill 'Em All. And I remember hanging out with him in Florida, and I said, well, what do you do nowadays? He goes, oh, I play in local bands, I give guitar lessons. And for a second, I thought, maybe I should get a guitar lesson. But I thought,
well, that's all.
What's that?
Is, at the root of it, Kirk, we're all just fans.
Oh, bro, I'm the biggest fan in the world. And and I just one other thing, it's just like I hope that Deep Purple have a reunion with Richie Blackmore at least, and do just one more tour. I pray for that, because it would be so amazing.
I hope so too.
We're gonna let you go, but I got to get in this quick question from a listener. He would kill me if I didn't. He just wanted to know, when you did the song "Don't Tread on Me" from the Black Album, was there a Broadway influence of America riff from West Side Story in there?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we had to pay the person. Who was it? This is not Corporal Rogers and Hammerstein. One of those Broadway personalities. We had to pay for the rights to that, as well as the Wizard of Oz thing at the beginning of Trade Ends of Saturday.
Well,
So yeah.
All right. Well, you know what, Kirk, we're going to get going, but I just want to remind the listeners the most important thing part of this is to get up to the allwithinmyhands.com website, Metallica's charitable foundation. We had Stefan and Renee on the show recently, and Metal Mayhem in August, show our appreciation. We made a donation. So we'd like to see anyone, if you're watching this, send a few bucks, something, anything to help fellow man, fellow metalheads. It's really important, especially in this day and age, to, like I said to Kirk, we're all just fans. Kirk's on the biggest stage in the world, but you could see after this last hour, he's a great guy. He's a down-to-earth guy. And let's just all stick together and, help out the man.
I'll thank you for saying that. And I'll just add to that we're all in this together.
Yeah.
We're all in this together. And to think that we're not, no, we're all in this together. So we got to help each other.
That's right.
And then when it comes to metal, we are really all in this together. So, it's just like, just one more thing, in the 80s and 90s, there was always this thing, between musicians and bands, all this competition. But now in this point, in this day and age, there's no competition. We look at each other and we're like, we made it. And I say, we got to keep together. We got to stay together because we're all in this together, guys. I say this, all the bands I ever come into contact with these days, keep it together because we're all in this together. We got to fly the flag,
Well, the bands and the fans, you saw pictures of me 30 years ago with my curls. You saw Rob and your kid, Kirk, his kid. So we want to thank you, Kirk, for spending some time.
Bro, that was great. And thank you for doing this. This is like a trip down memory hill for me, or memory lane, memory hill. it's like a hill now.
Right. You remember one thing, and then you and Rob, my God.
Give me your digits, bro. I'm going to make sure that you are freaking set up permanently.
Okay. You're talking institutionalized or the jacket with the long sleeves that ties in the back, or what? I've had many offers for that.
Yeah, you're going to be institutionalized in the halls of the Metallica crazy ward. You too, Andrew.
Yeah, you ready?
Okay, I'm going to hit both you guys up in the next few days, and I'm just going to make sure that management knows to put you guys on the permanent guest list, so that whenever you guys call up for anything that you need Metallica wise, they know who the heck you guys are, and you guys will have the free passage and whatnot, because you guys.
Well, that'd be awesome. I can't tell you how awesome it is to hang out with you, bro. It's been like forever. It was just like I said, we were just so close. It was so awesome. I remember me and Jim were the only two people that I knew in this area, that when you left, it was like, it's over. You know what I mean? We hung out heavy duty because we just had shared this amazing once in a lifetime experience. So I can't even tell you how awesome it is to just talk with you after all these years, just really more than I even imagined. It's awesome to visit with you, bro. Love you guys.
Yeah, I agree, bro. It's amazing, man. And I have to say this, man. I'm glad you guys are still around, because Paul Curcio, he's not around anymore.
Oh, I know. No, that's crazy.
And so I'm just, just really happy that you guys are still around and still kicking. And if you see Jim Ferraro, tell him, give him my best.
Absolutely. He's in San Diego, but I keep in touch with him and have a way to get a hold of him and whatever, so he's been out there for a long time.
Okay. Yeah. Please give him my best.
Now, are
And
you familiar with this Adam Dubin thing? I mean, you have to be, obviously, the
yeah,
documentary. Have you seen, like, because I was in there, Andrew was in there. Have you seen the basis for what that's going to become at all yet, or no?
it's still a work in progress. I'm going to
Okay.
see. I'm going to see Adam in about a week or so. I'll ask him and get a progress report from him.
Because I brought my pictures. He went through them. He ended up taking pictures of those that are going to be interspersed in there. And I don't know what he'll use, but I mean, I was telling some, just reminiscing with the pictures and the whole bit. So I'll be in that, which was an honor, but this is kind of like, that was tremendous. And that was, big time and what have you. But just being able to get face to face here and talk to you after all these years was, for me, was a true 10, bro. True 10.
Yeah. Likewise, bro. Likewise.
Yeah. So awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome, Kirk. It's really great to see you again.
Yeah.
And and Adam, when Adam was up here a couple of months ago, one of the things that I was talking to him about was that the thing that I remember most about the whole Kill 'Em All sessions was you. I have the most pictures of you because you always had your flying V in your hand. You were always practicing. You were always working on things. You had this incredible work ethic, but also you're probably one of the nicest people in the world. Seriously, because you're a real authentic person. And I know we had a lot of fun together, and to just mirror what, Rob just said, it's really a thrill to be here today talking to you and everything. Mad props and much love, bud.
Yeah, likewise. Much love to you guys too. Really great. I hope to see you guys in person sometime soon.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Now, before I leave, I'm not one of the nicest people in the world at all. I'm towards the bottom. I want to know, did I get that floating wireless microphone like Andrew had here? Did I get the floating? No, I didn't get the floating wireless microphone. What's going on with that?
Rob, if you only knew the tech hurdles that came upon us and I want to give props to everyone involved here, but Adam Dubin really was the seeds of this. Kirk, quickly, I sent out an email to Q Prime via Andrew, because Andrew was working with him, 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night, telling my vision of what we just did today. And Mark personally sent us back an email, said, guys, this is fantastic. Let alone do this interview. Invited myself, Andrew, and Rob to be part of the Dubin interview. We did that in June. And Rob, to answer your question, I speak with Adam on the regular, and he's just shooting video or film, and he's gonna hook up with Jim in San Diego when you guys were there. Yeah. So, but again, Kirk, thank you, and stay healthy, my friend. You look great.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you. Well, I had this ring light, and I noticed that it doesn't make me look as old as I actually am.
I'm just wondering how I can get a shirt like that, bro. That's pretty snappy, man.
What's that?
I'm just wondering where I can get some threads like that, man. You're looking pretty sharp there.
This is Hawaii, bro. You can get that, buy this stuff on the corner for $20.
Dude, are you kidding me? Hawaii, I got an order at the peddler that's going to be a big sheet pizza and wings. You got to get over here.
Man, I wish if that place was still open.
They had some good food. They had some real good food, and that was right there, kind of tucked in between the other buildings. And you got back there, and it was like, yeah, we did a lot of chowing there.
Yeah.
I remember the last thing I remember, I think it was Lars. And it's funny, back to the chicken wings if you've seen it's old now, the Kill 'Em All 25 years later. James with Slagle, and James is talking about, he mentions that I took you guys out for chicken wings. That's one of the things he remembered, cruising around my car, chicken wings. And I remember, I think it was Lars. But right from the get-go, we're going to get some food. So I'm like, well, you want to go? And I think it was Lars. I said, you want to go grab some wings? And he said, wings? I said, yeah, chicken wings. And he goes, you just eat the wings? So he had never heard of chicken wings until we came here. And then, 25 years later, James rattling off, going out for wings. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Awesome times, bro.
Yeah. It was good times, man. There really was good times. Yeah.
And glad that you're still around and still doing it. I mean, I really thought you guys were the best that I'd ever heard in an already relatively long career of listening to music from a little 8-year-old kid, to 1983. And it's amazing that I thought, hey, like to the girl, these guys are going to be huge some days. But man, dude, did you ever have any idea that you'd become as huge? Stadiums, right? 2 days of stadiums, and just, it's unbelievable what you guys have done. It's just unreal.
Yeah. I mean, didn't have any idea. I mean, when we were making Kill 'Em All, I remember I was constantly saying to myself, well, if we sell about 30,000 albums, that means that we can do a club tour from coast to coast. And I was happy about that.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
But, when you're 20 years old and you're just starting out, for me, it was all about just steps, for all of us, it was just all about steps. And for me, that was kind of like, the first step that I envisioned, but it actually turned out to be a lot more than that. I mean, right after Kill 'Em All came out, we did the Kill 'Em All for One tour over that summer. And then by September, October, we were on our way to Europe. And so it was already like bigger than I expected because we were going to Europe, and that was a big deal, especially for Lars, him being European. And
right.
Yeah. So,
So unbelievable.
We had no idea, man. We had no idea. I thought, I was just going to be like, playing that flying V guitar and wearing that denim jacket or black leather jacket for the rest of my life and being happy doing that,
No doubt, man. Tremendous.
Yeah. Kirk, a piece of trivia from Kill 'Em All is that the cover that, Robin was talking about with Cliff and that with the anvil, and then you guys had that shot on the back. That was my friend Gary Hurd who did all that photography. And Gary was kind of got to be a pretty big time photographer, but he hung his hat on that photo on the back of the album because so many people throughout the years in the photography world were talking about that it was a very raw photo. And I always thought that the album was really raw too, and how it went kind of hand in hand. But, a lot of people don't talk about that photo, but I thought it was a significant part of stuff. Is obviously a Cliff's idea of the anvil as well, though.
Yeah. And, I remember seeing the photo for the first time and all of us just going, great. And then Johnny Z going, oh my God, I hope that, I hope they don't think it's too violent. We're like, what are you talking about? Too violent? It's not too violent, but it's kind of violent. But then again, the title is Kill 'Em All. So,
right.
Yeah. Good times. All right, guys, I got to go. I got a baby I have to tend to. And so,
all right, brother. Great seeing you, man. Love you guys. Give my best to Lars and James. I never met Robert, but he sounds like a good guy. Robert, how can you go wrong? But give my best to those guys. Looking forward to seeing you all. That'll be a trip, man.
Yes. Yeah, I'm gonna send these names and numbers to management so that you guys are in the database. Okay.
Sounds good. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys.
Yeah, so what happened to you during that Guns N' Roses Metallica tour will never happen again, Bob.
Well, it was kind of tripped out, but it wasn't like, it was just a mistake, it was no big deal.
It happens. That shit happens. It even happens to me
no doubt.
When I go to other people's shows. I go out there like, no fucking tickets. Well, okay, fuck it. Just go to the bar. That's what I used to do.
That's what we did. We went out, grabbed some food,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Kirk.
Yeah, man. Great.
Thanks, guys.
Hello to James.
Guys, all have a good one.
See you in Boston next summer, man. Boston next summer.
Sounds good. Yeah. I hope to see all you guys in Boston.
Next summer.
Good, man. I'll have to get out
next August.
Sure.
We'll make it a pinky swear, metal swear.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys.
See you guys. Bye.
All right.
Bye, Kirk.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was fantastic. It's amazing. Just I hadn't talked to the guy in a long time. And like I said, I was hanging out with him all the time. And it was, just I didn't expect I don't know how to describe it. It was just like an old family member that you hadn't seen, or like, you gotta, not like he's my kid or anything, but like you find out you have a son somewhere, and all of a sudden you meet the son, and it's like, or a brother, and it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I had a brother. So that was really awesome. That was tremendous.
Rob, wait till you watch this, because the joy that I got to seeing your face and the joy in your face when you first started talking to Kirk was worth everything. Wow. It was awesome. Just like, it was so pure and unadulterated.
Awesome. I don't know how it came across, but like I said, it was just real time. Just wow. It was amazing. I'm in a different level, of consciousness now. I just got talking to my buddy. I haven't talked to him forever, and he's, a household name, and it's crazy to think back of how time is, right? 40 years go by, and just, that was awesome. I'm blown away.
It was really cool. He was really cool, and he was exactly how I thought he would be.
Yeah.
John, you were a little nervous, I know. Not to throw you under the bus, but you and I were talking beforehand, like, we just hope things go. But John and Walt, I'm so happy for you guys that you guys put this together, for everything that you do in your platform.
Thank you.
Yeah, no doubt. You guys did great
in the big leagues. And you guys really deserve all of the accolades and all of the attention and all of the growth and everything that you have coming to you. I'm just happy for you too.
Well, thank
you, man.
But the content is what you guys did.
Right.
It all, even though, Walt's over in Jersey, it all circles back to the Rock, to Rochester. And it's been, when we met a few years ago, I can't say enough about what Rob did back in the day. It's nice. I don't want to say it's closure, but for you guys, Rob, you're probably euphoric. It's a closure. Andrew, we've shared our feelings on this. So, and it's nice for Walt to meet me and be part of this and see this.
Oh, this was so cool for me to just sit back and listen to you guys. It was unreal. I was like, yeah, it was such a great hour and a half.
Walt,
the stories you guys, I was like rooting you on. I'm like, I gotta get the slide up next, man. Let me get this fucking slide up. It was like, yeah.
I do owe Kirk an apology, because the Ouzo thing, that was mine. I had gotten that bottle when I went to Europe the year before. I had backpacked through Europe right before I got the job at the studio. Actually, I got hired. This is a story I didn't even tell Vern, but when I graduated from the Eastman School of Music, I went right straight to the studio and asked to get a job. And Curcio's like, yeah, when can you start? And I go, in a few months. He goes, why in a few months? And I said, I'm going to backpack through Europe by myself. He goes, seriously? And I said, yeah. And he goes, so when you're done with that, come back. So I went through Europe. I backpacked. I got stuck in the Greek islands for like 3-4 months. Came back to Rochester a couple of days later, walked in the studio, and here we are.
Wow.
You did tell me that story.
I did. Well, my memory's failing because I'm the oldest guy here.
I think Warhead is, but
I'm 39. Okay, I said it.
You've been 39 for 25 years.
Oh, you're even going past me now.
Boom. Let's give a round of
there you go
for all of us. Metal Walt, you did a fantastic job.
Thanks.
Those slides together, organizing this run sheet. Rob, can't say enough. You're a legend.
Well, it was a pleasure. I'm glad to be involved. That's all. Just a pleasure.
Team player, Andrew. So.
And Vern, if it wasn't for your idea calling me in that day in May and saying, Walt, I got a crazy idea. Can you help me proofread this letter I wrote? Guys, this is how it happened. He just said, Walt, you're a really good writer. Just check this letter out. Recraft it for me. And I spent an hour and I was like, all right, let me just move this stuff around. And I just send it. You'll probably never hear for it. And the next morning I opened my email and he's like, what the? Why? He answered overnight. Like it was West Coast overnight. Not even 12 hours.
Andrew called me.
Oh, that's right. Right.
Working. And Andrew's like, hey, my friend, did you open your email? And it was 12 hours that I hit send on the email to, he got it, responded, and shot back that he goes, let alone you guys are going to get an interview. You're going to be involved in this documentary. And Justin was totally cool. You guys get to the show next summer in Boston, get those Snake Pit tickets. And, you know, it's absolutely incredible, Rob and Andrew.
Well, there you go. You're on the list, guys. Should just go to Boston. That's it. You're on, man. It's your closest one.
I'll have to get out there, man. Yeah.
So, all right, I got to bounce. So,
now hold on. One last thing.
What's
I'm
it?
a man of few words, but I'm going to add a couple right here.
Yeah.
Thank you for all that you're doing, all that you've done. And what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to get my Dymo label maker, and I'm going to rename my dual purpose air fryer the Vernomatic. And I am going to be doing some fish sticks in my Vernomatic tonight in honor of you, sir. How's that?
Rob, thank you.
We love the video. Gotta get the
All
video
right,
there.
guys, it's been real. So
Nice, guys. It was fun.
All right, boys.
Nice
That
to
was
meet
awesome.
you guys.
same here. Take
All
care.
right. See you down the line.
Stay in
All
touch.
right, sounds good.
All right,
All
bye.
righty. Metal for life.
Thank you for listening to Metal Mayhem ROC. Check out our website at metalmayhemroc.com for information on podcasts, archives, links to all our live radio shows, and all sorts of info. Please like, follow, and share with everyone, even your non-metal friends. And always remember to keep it heavy.